We're live.
So the whole, like, the arc of, did you, like, come out of college after playing football and all that? You came out of college and you somehow got, like, turned to roofing with.
Yeah, so I called Rick, called Papaw, I called our grandpa, and I was like, man, I called him, I was like, I have no idea what I'm going to do. At the time, like, I knew I didn't want to go into coaching, and he kind of just guided my direction he was like, well, hold up, let me make a phone call. From there, he connected me with you connected me with the person over at Pilot, and in 48 hours later, I was in Mobile, Alabama. It kind of happened that fast. So it wasn't even something that I was necessarily looking to get into. It was just like, well, I want to do something. I'm just sitting in a house right now. What am I going to do? Let's just go do this and figure it out.
Yeah. So you get in the office, you're working for Allstate,
Allstate claims heavily.
Yeah. So working a desk adjuster job where you kind of oversee everything. You kind of see the entire claim process from a helicopter view. And obviously, kind of like me, at some point, you want to get out of there as fast as possible. But, so you do that, and then you move on. And whenever you left, working some claims, what kind of, did that steer what you did when you left?
Well, no, I mean, I'd done some roofing sales before I went over to Pilot. So I kind of had the idea of, what door-to-door was. And I knew what that kind of took. And I knew the claim process at that point. So I was like, well, you know what? Let's just go pull a sole proprietorship and, get a DBA pulled, whatever the case may be. Can't even remember what that process was like now. It was 5 years ago, 6 years ago now. And I was like, let's just try to figure it out. And that's kind of what, started this whole journey. I went out to Quanta. Quanta got hit with a hailstorm one night, and, I signed 4 roofs in Quanta, and that was kind of it. It kind of just trickled over into Vernon. Did well in Vernon for a while, went over to Wichita Falls, kept on building it up. And, I just kind of learned along the way. That's how it happened.
Yeah. So you did that after you got out of the insurance stuff.
Yeah.
And took some stuff with you from the insurance world. Sweet. Not a lot of roofers actually have been inside. It's becoming more common now, but not a whole lot have actually been inside of insurance, at least, especially on the inside, like desk adjusting, where you see all the little nuances and all that stuff. You probably get to actually read policies and stuff like that when you're working on the inside, but a lot of adjusters don't. So,
Yeah, and I feel like, I think that might be a large disconnect of what adjusting might used to have been and versus what it is now, because, widely a field adjuster that's out, getting on a roof is, rarely the person that's sitting there reading the policy, writing the claim, doing the whole thing. It's not a start to finish thing anymore. Now, you have adjusters, that'll come out and meet you at your house. You might have 3 people touch your file before you have a decision and an estimate in your hand, or 3 approvals. And I think that's something that's really changed. And how does that affect the homeowner? Well, the homeowner, they don't realize that, number one, the person at the door isn't going to be the one writing the claim, unless it's a staff adjuster, Allstate, State Farm staff adjuster. But what happens behind the doors, is, you have authorizations, you have, a manager that has to get sent up to, it's looked over again. And then they send out an approval or a denial, partial denial, whatever the case may be.
yeah, you've basically most of these insurance companies don't want to pay for staff adjusters all year. They don't want to pay $80,000-$90,000 for a salary. So they get an independent firm that comes out there that has a whole roster of adjusters. So a big storm happens and they send out these people that might be from Georgia or somewhere else that come out and look. And those people, generally speaking, are not making any coverage decisions technically. They just put together a file and send it up to their reviewers. Their reviewers send it into the insurance company. The insurance company looks over it again. And sometimes the process kind of restarts. The insurance company doesn't like what was sent in. They don't like the way it was formatted or what was paid for or whatever. The insurance company can just send it back and be like, hey, we don't like this. Change it.
Yeah, and that changes every year. What they might be looking for changes every year. Like this year, I've never seen estimates, get sent to us without starter strip at all. It's and it's not just, one carrier or another. It seems like it's turnkey, where, if you have a hip roof, you're getting 15% waste, and oh, by the way, this includes, the hip and eave starter strip as well. So it's just different changes that they might make every year that, roofing contractors kind of have to navigate.
Yeah.
In order to continue putting on the same kind of, product that the general public has expected us to try to put on, while keeping a margin.
A lot of people don't realize that whenever, you buy an insurance policy, your policy is really like what tells the insurance company what they should pay for. But that's not, whenever it gets parsed out into all these different little segments, it no longer becomes that. You've got somebody going out there that's not making coverage decisions. What it ends up being is the entire claim is operated off of claim guidelines that have nothing to do with the policy, where one carrier will say, don't pay for ridge at all. Tick a box so it's included in the waste. Well, what's the line item cost? Like, what material are they paying for? That was generally okay when everybody put 3-tab shingles on their roof, because a lot of roofers, and Xactimate knew that, and insurance companies a lot of times knew that, is roofers would go out there and just buy extra bundles of 3-tab for their starter and flip them around. And they would buy extra bundles of 3-tab for their hip and ridge, which is fine, and use that as the hip and ridge. So they were like, well, we could just add a little extra waste and it covers it. Heck, even to like 2019, whenever I was working inside as a desk adjuster, that was kind of one of our things, was like, we were just adding extra waste for starter and hip and ridge on laminate roofs. And whenever the roofer would call in and say, we can't do that, it's a different price, it's a different product, we'd say, oh no, we're not telling you what product to use. We're just adding a little bit of extra money so you can go and buy the right product. But it doesn't line up. It never lines up. It's not in the policy. You're not paying for what they had.
Yeah, and it's not just like, just shingles. I mean, it's all the way down to like the valley liner. We'll have roll roofing approved for, we'll have roll roofing, be put on an estimate for valley liner. If anybody knows what roll roofing is, it's literally it's just mesh and asphalt rolled together. Nobody uses that. It's an easy out. It's just different things every year. Every year it's going to be something different. But I think it's enough about insurance. Let's switch gears. And I think that this is the biggest difference between, whenever I started versus now, is how did I go from a guy that just knows a little bit about insurance and knows how to knock on a door and sell something into being a roofer. Right. And what does that entail, as far as, being a roofer, being a good roofer? That's really what, the difference is. And, from where I began to where I am now.
Yeah. I would interject too and say that for me, just coming from 10 years of running around the country doing insurance work to going back into construction, but very specifically into roofing, is the main thing that differentiates somebody that throws shingles on your roof and a good roofer is the good roofers like really pay attention to details that the other ones don't care about at all.
Yeah.
That's the difference. It's like, how much do you care about the little stuff? I feel like that's a lot of times what separates it. At the end of the day, whenever they're going out there and putting shingles on your roof, it's like, what's the difference between these guys?
Yeah.
I think it's the details.
It absolutely is the details, and it's and you know, and details. I don't think that they're necessarily that standard isn't set, you know, by a certain individual. It's an industry standard that, you know, specifically industry standards are going to be different in every market. In DFW, it's completely different than what you're going to find in Wichita Falls. What you're going to find in Vernon is completely different than what you're going to find in Wichita Falls. Bowie's the same story. You know, so little details that, you know, first come to my mind, right, is, you know, whenever we try to do a roof, are we going to try to go code compliant all the way from the top to the bottom? Now, what do I mean by that? I mean, we can talk about tearing off felt. I've heard so many people talk about tearing off felt, and like, it's a little thing. I'm not going to sit here and talk about tearing off felt. What I am going to talk about is ventilation, because that's the main thing that I see nobody do, right? You know, a lot of people just throw two turbines on a roof and it's like, well, we're done here. You know, we'll replace what they had there. And B, flashings. You know, a lot of flashings issues. You know, reusing flashings. You know, and then if you do replace the flashings, you know, what grade and quality are they? You know, are we cutting through faces of brick and redoing chimney flashings? Which there's not really anything wrong with that. You know, is there stuff to be said about it? Yes. But, you know, and that takes you from, you know, and that's where you garner, like, you know, a roofing contractor that cares about details to somebody that's an actual, like, craftsman. And I feel like that's kind of where we're headed. So, and don't really know where to go from here.
I stopped so you can cut that because this fucking paper is gonna be loud. One thing that I don't know that kind of bugs me because I don't know, coming from what I did before in insurance to roofing, now having an understanding of it, one thing that bugs me is this, like, but I completely understand it, is people see, you know, a storm roll through a town and a bunch of roofers going around knocking on doors doing all this stuff, but like, should we really like get bent out of shape about that, or is that kind of like it's just, this is Texas, like?
Yeah, I mean, you can get bent out of shape about it if you want to. The fact of the matter is, it's going to be there and it's going to happen regardless. I remember, you know, whenever the hailstorm hit Wichita Falls last year, I was in the bank and another roofer came up to me, and, you know, and he was talking about, you know, another roofing company that just kind of popped up overnight, and you know, and he was like, well, where did these guys come from and everything else? And he was talking about Dallas roofing contractors that were up in Wichita Falls. And I was like, you know what? It's probably a good thing. You know, it's probably a good thing that, you know, people come up here, they get offered something different than what they have, because honestly, the industry standard here probably isn't the greatest. And he agreed with me. And, you know, so it's not unavoidable. It's not something that, you know, you can complain until you're blue in the face about it. But ultimately, this is Texas, and, you know, this is an industry that has a low entry point. You know, you don't have to have, you know, basically anything to your name in order to start something like this. So with the nature of that, you're going to have some characters in the industry, and you're going to have people swarming an area.
Yeah. That makes me want to talk about licensing, but that's a whole different ball of wax.
Well, I mean, I'll ask you the question. What do you think about, you know, the licensing? I know that there's a House bill that's, you know, I don't know if it's in the Texas House, if it's passed. I don't know anything about it. Um, what do you think? What do you think that ought to look like, Clayton?
It's it's really hard because you really need licensing more so as a consumer protection than anything. But you know how anything, whenever you start discussing things becoming law and stuff like that, it becomes political really fast. And then when something becomes political, it gets into like where people group up into factions and stuff like that. So we did have something that seemed like it was gonna move forward, and enough people got together. It seems like kind of put a kibosh on it, but there's states that I've worked in that have licensing, and there's some states that don't have licensing. And I mean, from my perspective, I think there needs to be some type of check and balance, but it's this is all bullshit. I was stuttering way too fucking much. But basically, like if you go to Minnesota, for instance, there's like more stringent licensing there. Obviously, their political and all that stuff is a lot different than in Texas or Oklahoma, for instance. But in places where there's licensing, I would guess, and we could probably pull something up on that or figure that out. But I would guess there's less of a chance of, say, deductibles getting absorbed and stuff like that, of people that are kind of there for bad intent, going up to an old lady's door, knocking on it, and they're kind of just trying to get that ACV check or trying to get the deductible, and then they just run. And if there's no way to kind of keep track of everybody in that system, which those people could still come, but if there's no way to keep track, then I feel like you're probably going to have a higher likelihood of that happening.
Well, yeah, you're probably going to have a higher likelihood of that happening, but also as an insurance industry, you talk about rising premiums, you talk about all of these different, things that affect underwriting, the amount of claims that are written, things of that nature. Yeah, it has a whole different back of house effect too, where it's not necessarily people just grabbing a check and running off, but people just running around and eating 1% deductibles. Well, those are claims that it's a lot easier for somebody with a 5-year-old roof that has minimal damage, or it's like borderline in the gray area, to say, well, it's not going to cost me anything. Let's just go ahead.
Yeah, I think those days are becoming less and less on that end though, just because of kind of like the standard deductible has gone up by so much.
Yeah, thank goodness too.
House prices go up, generally speaking, the cost to build goes up, and you have a deductible that's based on a percentage of your coverage A, or your dwelling coverage. So if you have a house insured for $400,000 and you have a 1% deductible, it's a $4,000 deductible. But now the bare minimum, seemingly from what I've seen in the state of Texas, is going to be 2%. So now that's an $8,000 deductible.
Yeah, and I say thank goodness, not because I want to see people come out of pocket more to get their stuff fixed, but what I see on my end, it isn't it isn't this narrow vision of, well, I'm coming out of pocket more for my roof. What I see more of is, no, this is a consumer protection. What this is a, this without licensing, a 2% deductible, you're taking a $5,000 deductible up to a $10,000 deductible. Well, Joe Blows and everybody else that come through with their ladders and, they want to collect an ACV check, they're not going to be able to do that roof for this amount. Therefore, you're not going to have as many scammers coming through and trying to do this.
Yeah, it does. It's kind of an effect that happens. Obviously, the insurance industry wants deductibles to happen because that lowers their loss ratio. Or if they look at, hey, Betty Smith, for instance, has paid us for 40 years, and she's paid us $75,000 in premiums, and we've only had to pay $45,000 out in claims. That's like their loss ratio they're constantly keeping track of. Yeah, if you have higher deductibles, you have a much lower risk. So that will, if she now has a $10,000 deductible, the likelihood of her filing a claim for any reason when it comes to wind and hail is lowered significantly. Windstorm comes through and blows off 4 shingles. not going to be a claim. If her deductible was still $500, it probably every little thing that happened to that house would be a claim. So that helps them on that end.
And you know, with the lower premiums that you get from these higher deductibles, ultimately, like what people don't know is that there is insurance that you can have for your deductible.
Yeah.
You can go purchase insurance to cover your deductible.
Yeah, it's getting bigger and bigger. I think Farmers Insurance, who also owns Foremost, is kind of getting very attached to a company that does that. And then there's another one out that's kind of still independent called Sola, I believe.
Yeah.
They will essentially insure your deductible. So if you have a loss that qualifies, like a wind and hail loss, you could pay them a premium all year, which is smaller. You just got to do the math. Is it worth it? But a smaller premium. And if you did have to file a claim and had to pay your $14,000 deductible on a $450,000 house or whatever the case may be, they step in. And because you're paying them premiums, they step in now and pay that $14,000 deductible. So it's going to have a market. It's kind of like the same thing we see in other states as we do in Texas. The same thing. There's always swings and momentum going different directions. If we see insanely high deductibles, I think the market will adjust to that and create something like financing of deductibles or even buying insurance that covers your deductible. As long as that's something that's getting approved by the TDI, Texas Department of Insurance, then I mean, they probably don't care if that happens. They just want to make sure people are paying them.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and like I said, to kind of go back to the licensing thing, the deductible, like I see it as a fail-safe. I understand for the consumer it's probably not a good thing. From my end, I do see it as a good thing because it's a protection. It's a protection that you might not necessarily see, but I see it and I hear about it, probably once a month. As far as the licensing goes, my stance on the licensing is a roofer can mess up your house just as fast as an electrician or plumber. It's not necessarily about, it is about vetting people. It is. But ultimately, like knowing that somebody's competent enough to show up to your house and do a good job and know what they're doing. You don't want guys that have, just walked out their door one day and talked to ChatGPT to go pull a DBA and start trying to roof a house. Like if there's one thing on your property that'll mess up your house faster than anything else, it's a bad install. So that's kind of my stance on it. I think that it's an absolute necessary thing. Do I think that it's just a bunch of red tape to a certain degree? Yeah. Do I want the industry to be an industry where, this isn't a, free market type of bootstrap type of, career decision? I love the fact that roofing is like that. I love the fact that, you can go out and kind of make something of yourself with nothing. On the flip side, though, there's been way too many 60-year-old people that have, had to cough up money or, and first-time parents that are in their late 20s that have had to cough up a check because of what I just said, which is the low entry point, and just some shady characters. So,
yeah. It's always my rule of thumb is always who wants these things. And I think if it is based on consumer protection, it'll probably be good. But there's always going to be that slimy CFO of an insurance company sitting in the background that maybe doesn't want it because maybe he thinks if there's licensing, that raises the barrier, it raises the cost. It raises the cost, it raises premiums. And they sometimes they can't raise premiums. So if it raises the cost to replace a roof because everybody's licensed, like in Minnesota, it might cost $850 a square in some areas to get a roof replaced. The insurance companies might not want that. So that's one of those things is like we just have to see who's really pushing it. Yeah. That's kind of the deal. Like if there's a cutout for new construction, I think that kind of makes sense because the burden isn't necessarily on the person that's going to be living in that home. It's normally on the builder to make sure that stuff is done right. And you're kind of cutting, like, we don't need anything to raise the cost of building new houses at this point. We need more houses, so it's that kind of deal. So there's one thing that I've kind of been thinking about, like I feel like it's a mentality of like generations before us in a way, which we probably should have that a little bit of the mentality, but the mentality I'm thinking of is the lowest bid mentality. Like all the kind of people that are always picking the lowest bid. You know what I mean? Like there's always that. It's like, why wouldn't you? It's just a roof. Like, who cares?
Well, I don't think that there's anything wrong with that mentality as long as it's a detailed bid.
Yeah.
Yeah, and as long as you're watching it. But, for a lot of people, it's not a detailed bid. It's, hey, here's the shingle. You don't even know what ridge cap you're getting. You don't know the components of the roof. You don't know anything about anything that's going on here. Right? So, if you have a lowest bid that's a detailed estimate, like, absolutely. They're like, go get the best deal.
Yeah, I guess as long as what they're saying they're doing, then
exactly.
Go for it. But
ultimately, that's not what you get.
No, seemingly, like whenever you really dig into it, if it's too good to be true, generally speaking, people aren't out there trying to like lose money or make a lot less money. So you get a bid that's, you got a $10,000 roof, but one of them's coming in for $7,000 and the others are, $10,000 and $11,000. What's going on here? Are we reusing all the vents? Are we leaving all the layers of felt? They're not, that area that I had 3 years ago after the ice storm where I think there might be water coming through the decking. They're not going to be looking at that. Like, they're just putting a roof on.
Yeah, talent. What does take talent is, running a solid operation, having SOPs in place, having guidelines. That way, if you're pumping out 15 roofs a week, you don't have a drop. There is no drop in what am I looking for here?
Quality.
Yeah, there's no drop in quality. Okay, because I can open up Company Cam right now, and I can look at the last 2 builds, and I can look at the tear-off photos. I can look at everything that we did, and it's always going to look the same because I put that in place.
That and you have roofers that know what you want, and they know that if you don't give them what they want, it's they're gonna be asked questions.
So let's talk about that, because I've personally went through a lot of roofers. I've gone through a lot, and I found my guys. Like, don't get me wrong, but not all roof is made the same. And I'll say that very confidently.
Yeah, no, it's not. Whenever people are surprised, say we talk to somebody, you talk to somebody, and you say, this is what I want. And they're like, huh? And you're like, yeah, that's how it should be. Like, no, yeah, there actually is. Like, if you're putting on Owens Corning shingles, like, you should maybe put the nails this way.
If you flip over the package, it'll tell you how to do it. Man.
Yeah, no, we don't. What? 6? This ain't Florida. Why are you putting 6 nails in a shingle?
What's the point of having a sure nail strip? You're buying those shingles, because of the wind tear-off resistance.
Yeah.
Like, of course I want 6 nails. That's why I bought it.
Yeah. It's how much more does it cost on a 20 square roof to put that 6th nail?
$4 maybe.
$4.
Like, I don't know.
$4, and it actually does increase the wind rating of that shingle. It's been engineered that way. Like, literally, you're buying a shingle for its ability to not come off of your roof.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm with OC for a reason. That's why. There's blow-offs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, everybody's been driving down the highway, driving down Central Freeway, driving down 287, 35. It doesn't matter where you live, honestly. Everybody's been driving down that road and seen the same apartment building, the same retirement home with shingles blown off of it. Just tabs missing everywhere or whole shingles missing. Like, those are blow-offs. That's the wind comes and blows the shingle here and there. And what a lot of people don't know is that it's kind of like a domino effect. One goes, that already tells you that multiple can go. It's just a matter of time. Like they're going to start going and going and going.
I can look at it in my neighborhood. Half the roofs are Owens Corning and half of them are Tamco.
Yeah.
Yeah. We had a windstorm come through. Guess how many Owens Corning's roofs had blow-offs?
They shouldn't be any.
Yeah, one or two.
Yeah.
Every other Tamco house had a blow-off. And it's Tamco heritage. I'm not talking bad on Tamco at all. Actually, Titan, Stormfighter Flex, they're great products. Availability and consistency is what I was looking for. So, of course, I'm going with the largest manufacturer in America for building products in that Owens Corning.
I mean, they're pretty big.
Yeah, they're pretty big. That's the point.
Yeah. Shingles are made with fiberglass, and Owens Corning is probably the best at fiberglass, too. And they pretty much produce every single part of the shingle in-house, where a lot of other shingle manufacturers buy Owens Corning's fiberglass to put inside of their shingles, stuff like that. So yeah, they're pretty good at it.
Yeah.
But no, I would say also on top of that, if you had a storm come through there and it wasn't like a Category 2 hurricane, then we probably shouldn't have any shingles. But that's just like you missing a nail here and there, like stuff can happen. It doesn't matter. You can fix it.
And here's the deal: is like the shingles that are on these roofs, they aren't duration. Yeah, they're true definition Oak Ridge.
So they've got a 110, 120 maybe.
Oak Ridge isn't the best product on the market if you're a new home builder and you're looking for a regular 30-year shingle. I don't think that Oak Ridge is probably the option I would go with. I know that duration, storm, and flex are fantastic. They're available widely, and they're good. They're really good. Do I think that the duration is the best Class 3 on the market? I think it probably Titan is. Do I think that Storm is the best Class 4 on the market? No, I think that probably Malarkey makes something better.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's such a solid product and so widely available that I'd be silly to go try to hunt down Malarkey. I'd be silly to try to go hunt down Titan wherever they're at, or Highlander, or whatever the case may be.
Yeah. It's just Malarkey is another one. Like it's very big, and it's kind of like in certain pockets of the country, it's more available than everything else.
Yeah.
And then other pockets, it's not. So it's like one of those things. It's like if you go to Kansas, I don't know if you've ever been there, but whenever I was there, it seemed like everywhere you went, every restaurant, every gas station, they only had Pepsi products. Didn't have Coke.
Yeah.
Does that mean Pepsi's better? Nah, no. I don't think so.
Yeah. But
it is what it is. Some places have availability, some places don't as much. Whenever everything you order is a week or 2 weeks out, it probably makes it a little bit difficult to keep things moving, I would guess. But
just in a little bit deeper dive, we've talked about insurance, we've talked about licensing, we've talked about shingles at this point. Just a quick little clip here. 3-tab shingles will not be insured here shortly. Okay, they're not going to be insured in Texas. Period. It's coming down the pipeline now. If somebody offers to put a 3-tab roof on your house, tell them no. All right. 30-year shingle. You're still going to have ACV endorsements or roof schedule endorsements put onto your policy after 8 to 10 years. Class 3 and Class 4, you're going to avoid those things. You're going to avoid your roof surfaces endorsements. You're going to avoid ACV policies. What's the price difference here? From a 30-year to a Class 3 to a Class 4, from a 3-tab. A 3-tab, there's a pretty big price difference from a 3-tab to a 30-year shingle. All right. But having your house insured is pretty much worth it. All right. So if I'm looking at a 30 square roof, you're looking at around, $15 a square more to go from a 3-tab to a 30-year. Whenever I'm looking at a 3-tab to a Class 3, which is what I put on all of our houses. If we're running an insurance claim for you and we have a 3-tab roof, you're automatically going to a duration shingle. That's really the bottom shingle that I like to install, right? So you're going to a duration, all right? That price difference is around $21 a square, all right? From a 3-tab to a Class 4, all right? That's where you're really going to see quite a big price difference. It's probably around $45 to $50 a square more, right? And that's just a per bundle average cost. That's how much more it costs, right? And then obviously you're gonna have a margin on top of that, right? So stop putting 3-tab shingles on. 30-year, I get it for builders, I get it there. But other than that, the price difference between a 30-year and a Class 3 shingle is you're literally looking at maybe $5 a square.
Yeah, and just to add on there, all insurance companies seemingly are different. So like one insurance company like Allstate may put a roof surfaces endorsement on any roof when it reaches a certain age. It just depends on premiums and what's available in your market and stuff like that. Some companies like Mercury is kind of the subsidiary of Allstate. When your roof hits 9 years old, it's getting that endorsement. State Farm, biggest insurer in the country, you have a Class 3 or Class 4, you're not getting that. Your roof isn't going to all of a sudden you wake up one day, and if you do have a hailstorm or a claim, you're having to eat thousands and thousands of dollars. That's not going to happen from what I understand right now with State Farm. But that could change in 5 years. The 3-tab thing will not change. Going with the 3-tab is like, that's kind of, I don't know if you're very familiar. Some people aren't, depending on the market, but like a T-lock shingle, you see them sometimes on sheds, or organic shingle, you see them sometimes.
Torn them off.
It's like, yeah, they're crap. And that's why they really got rid of them. Some people say T-locks are the best shingles ever made. No, not really. They are good for what they are, but there's a reason why they no longer exist, and a lot of people haven't heard of them. Yeah.
So if you're an average consumer out here and you're wondering like, hey, how long should I wait, to file a claim, get a roof replacement? Well, I can tell you this right now. It's kind of the sweet spot for North Texas, right? Wichita Falls, DFW, up to Vernon, out to Amarillo. The sweet spot is right around 7, 8 to 10 years. If you're in that sweet spot, that's where you're starting to see your policy premiums rise. All right, it's not because your home value's gone up, which I mean that is some of it, but they're starting to see that peril, the biggest peril that they're going to pay for, the biggest property damage that they're going to pay for. It's your roof, right? So whenever shingles age, and it doesn't matter if it's a Class 3, Class 4, whatever the case may be, a designer, whatever the case may be. Whenever those shingles age, they start to get softer and they start to take damage a little bit better, or a little bit worse than they would if they came straight out of the package and they're 2 years old. Expanding contraction's a big thing in North Texas. We're going to have winters where we might have a 15-degree day, and we're going to have a summer the same year where we could touch 112, 115. So that's a big difference, and all of those, what that shingle goes through, it's going to make a difference on how long it lasts. Everybody says, well, it's a 30-year shingle. Yeah, it's a 30-year shingle in a bubble, but your roof isn't Bubble Boy. And it's going to get exposed to things. It's going to get exposed to 40-mile-an-hour straight line winds, 60-mile-an-hour straight line winds over the span of 8 years. It's going to have a 15-degree day, a 115-degree day. You set anything outside, and it's going to deteriorate. It doesn't matter. So my advice to you, start looking at it around 7 years. And obviously, there's circumstances that can change that. It doesn't matter, if you have a brand new roof. If you have 2.5-inch hail that falls from the sky and hits your roof, it's kind of the nature of where we live. At least we don't live in Oklahoma. It could be worse. So that's it.
Would you hire your own roofing company to do your roof?
Yeah, no doubt.
Why?
Just me hiring my own roofing company. I see the industry standards. And I know how much, people actually care. This is a roofing company that, we've been trying to break through for so long. And I feel like we've gone above and beyond, trying to meet a standard but exceed them and really try to reset them. And number two, would I have hired my company maybe 2 years in? I don't think so. 3 years in, maybe not, but here at year 6, like every single growing pain that we've really had, Everything's really been ironed out. So at this point, with all the trials, all the different things that have gone on, and I'll say it, like, I think that we put out the best product, just based off of the work and how much I've nerded out on this thing and how much I've, just really put into it, the effort, um, to try to, stabilize, improve, and, just really hold the quality control. I think that really is what the difference is between Shearman Roofing and what everybody else is doing. And then, to add on, once I heard like the different things about ventilation, what we're doing with flashings, what we're doing with nail patterns, like, yeah, I would absolutely hire us.
What would make you not hire a company? Like if you're just a consumer, like you don't know much really. If you're just like, hey, I don't have time to worry about that. I'm an electrician, my wife's a nurse, like we have kids. We don't have time to know about roofing. We're living our life. Like I was just thinking the other day, like Google, right?
Yeah.
Google. What? Like if 200 people or 300 people or 400 people in bigger markets, whatever, have reviewed a company and they're like, yeah, they're good.
I think that I think it's just risk. Like, well, I'm going to assess risk. Anything that I do, whether it's an investment, right?
Yeah.
So I'm going to assess risk. All right. How long have these people been around? What are the variables that go into the individual that owns this place, runs this place, and quality controls this place? How can that affect my warranty? Ultimately, I want to know that I'm going to get the best warranty, more than even the product that I'm getting, right? Because ultimately, like that's really what I care about. Is there anything that could affect the fact that, next year I have a small leak? Are they going to come out and are they going to cover it? What could change that? That's the question I'm going to ask myself.
Yeah, kind of a side shoot, but I was thinking the other day, whenever I'm on Amazon, right, ordering a product, you never, like, there's literally 50,000 options for one thing, like this screen in front of the mic, like literally everything. The one thing I always have started to do is look at the reviews and see how many 5 stars and 4 stars there are.
Yeah.
And like if one of them has like 90% 4 and 5 stars, but the other one has 73%, the one that has 90 is probably less risky to buy. Like you're probably more likely to keep that item. I feel like it's not that hard to look up the company. Like for all these companies that go with fly-by-night companies or like stuff like that,
Yeah.
if you just Googled it, like what's going on in the
a Google search will solve 90% of issues that I've ever heard.
Yeah. If you don't use Google, have your grandkid do it. Have your kid do it. Like what?
Yeah.
Just reduce, the risk there.
Yeah.
But,
I mean, you'll find out a lot about somebody if you just Google their name. You know what I mean? And the owner, the company itself. And people talk about Better Business Bureau. I'm not here to bash Better Business Bureau, but Better Business Bureau has its uses and it doesn't have its uses. Do I think that the Better Business Bureau is an end-all be-all? Absolutely not. The fact of the matter is, with the BBB, you're paying them money on a year-in and year-out basis to get a placard in your window. All right? As long as you answer any type of complaints or questions that pop up on the BBB, you're going to have an A+ rating. That does not mean that you didn't have issues, right? It just means that somebody paid a fee and they got a placard. That's it.
Yeah. They have no enforcement arm, right? There are no, you mess up Susie's roof and she's mad and she wants you to fix it. The BBB isn't going to come and say, listen, buddy, you signed up with us. Now you better act like you're a BBB company and go out there and fix it, or we're going to do it and you're going to pay us to do it.
Yeah, and and there's different networks out there. Like we're part of the Good Contractor Network. All right, and what that offers is like a $25,000 warranty for any job that we do. And that isn't something that's built out well in Wichita Falls. If it was, it would be worth a lot. Like
it is in DFW. Like a lot of people know. It's like, hey, I'm looking for a plumber. Just literally tell them the Good Contractor Network. Because, like,
Yeah.
if somebody goes in there and messes up your plumbing, the Good Contractor Network can step in and say, hey, did this contractor that's on our network actually do what they said they're going to do? And I was thinking the other day, like, how that seems risky for them to do that, but it's not, because they vet their contractors, and the amount of times they've had to actually go in and fix stuff is like 0.0009% or something, like really, really low, because they just vet their people. So if you're on that network, you're probably pretty damn safe.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What do homeowners waste money on? Like, is there something that they do? 'Cause that's kind of a hard question, right? Because you might be the guy on the end of like making money off of something, but is there something that they do? Maybe it's like a myth they hear, or maybe it's like something they care about that's not that big of a deal. It's the little stuff that's actually the bigger deal. I don't know. Is there something in there that's kind of like?
I'm trying to think. Like, I'm just going through like the entire roof. Like, right. So we start with the drip edge, synthetic, ice and water. Like, if somebody's trying to upgrade your synthetic felt, like there is absolutely no reason why you need anything better than like Rhino or, Tri-Built on a shingle roof. If somebody comes in and tries to pitch you, some $250 roll of synthetic felt, like, that's going to be a waste of money, guys. Like, you don't need that. As long as it's installed correctly, that felt is going to last probably longer than the shingles that are on top of it. Same thing with ice and water barrier. If you have a shingle roof, ice and water barrier, as long as it matches the manufacturer, you don't need to go in and like have Grace ice and water barrier underneath your shingle roof. Like, it has its application, but really, even like a standing seam roof in Texas, like, a lot of people would want to put high temp ice and water barrier underneath that. You could really just put synthetic.
Yeah, it's not tile. Like, it's gonna be okay.
Like, we have a Ludowici roof coming up. Like, did I put a nicer synthetic underneath that? Absolutely. But am I gonna put high temp ice and water barrier underneath that entire thing? Absolutely not.
Yeah.
It's a waste of money.
What about this whole thing? I've heard a lot of homeowners that are like, "Oh, I don't want that. I don't want brown wood, or I don't want teak. I know it's going to be way hotter, and I'm trying to save money on my electricity. I want amber, or something like that."
So are you
is that how big of a thing is that?
It's a huge thing.
The sun thing, like, if you put antique silver or something of that nature. Like, what are we talking? $5 a month difference in the energy bill?
I can't tell you the amount of money that you're going to spend, but I can tell you that if you put a white roof on versus a black roof, you're going to look at a good 20 to 30 degree temperature difference.
In the attic?
Yeah.
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 Do you think they last longer because of that? No.
The shingles themselves?
Yeah.
What's the number one reason why Arizona had
because of heat.
Because of heat.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's gonna.
Yeah, like I've been in the summer on a roof in San Antonio, and the roofer literally had an infrared thermometer, and he shot it at the roof, and I was like, "Oh, this is hot," and he was like, "Yeah, let me check it," and I was like, "What?" And he shot the infrared thermometer on it, and it was like 159 degrees on the surface of the black shingles we were on.
Yeah.
I'm guessing that does radiate.
So, like, a lot of people out here that want to have a black roof, yes, it's going to be hotter. Anybody that tells you that black roofs, like, it doesn't matter what shingle color you're going to have, they're idiots. Like, yeah, it's going to be hot. You got to ventilate it. Like, and that goes for any roof color. You got to ventilate your roof very well. And either way it goes, whether it's ventilated perfectly or not, that roof is going to be hotter. Like, make no mistake about it. Is it going to look great, though? Absolutely.
Yeah. And we really don't, I mean, we put on hundreds of roofs, and a lot of them are black. And you never really, I don't know, I could ask you, have you ever had a homeowner call you after installing an Onyx Black Duration Storm and say, "Oh my gosh, Tristan, I wish you would have told me that my electricity bill was going to go up $8 a month"?
No.
Okay.
Because they love the color. They love the way it made their house look.
Okay. But it has to be hotter.
You pay $8 a month in order to have your house look the way you wanted it to look.
I would pay a lot more than that.
There you go.
Yeah. Steaks or brisket?
I like a steak. And that might be an unpopular opinion.
Because you can do it yourself.
Well, it's not necessarily that. I feel like just heavy smoked meats make me feel like weighed down a little bit.
Yeah.
I like, if I eat like a clean like ribeye or sirloin and I have, some like potatoes on the side, like I feel good.
Yeah.
I like feeling good.
Yeah. I don't. I just like
I
barbecue.
understand, yeah.
So, yeah. All right. George Pickens or C.D. Lamb?
Lamb.
But he went to Oklahoma.
I don't care. Like, it's fine. I'm a UT fan, everyone. But ultimately, like, I was a Big 12 fan growing up. I watched Michael Crabtree, and I watched, the great teams at Baylor. I watched, the great teams at TCU. There's nothing that I hate more than the fact that Texas and Oklahoma is a part of the SEC, and that's a very unpopular opinion.
Yeah.
But ultimately, imagine this in your mind. A Big 12 conference with Nebraska in it.
Yeah.
A Big 12 conference with Arkansas back in there. Texas A&M, Texas, Oklahoma.
Yeah. So basically, you want to do a remix of like the old school Southwest Conference.
Yes, that is the
Big
conference
12.
that it needs to be. Missouri needs to be back in there. We don't need who else is it? Like West Virginia. Why is West Virginia not in the ACC?
Just money. It was a money grab.
And that's what's going to ruin the game.
Yeah, for sure. It's going to become a super league at some point.
Yeah, it's trash. And the Pac-12 was a beautiful thing.
It was pretty sick. Like,
Yeah, it was
you watch
sick.
college football all day and you're like, oh, dude, we got UCLA and USC playing.
Yeah.
Hey, we got Oregon, playing Oregon State tonight.
And I feel like the regionalism of, college football is what makes college football so beautiful. Like you can go to Louisiana, they don't have, they care about two things. That's the LSU Tigers and the oil rig they're about to go work on offshore. That's what they care about. As long as they got those two things, they're happy.
Yeah, think about Alabama.
Oh,
Who's their football
that's
team?
even a better example than
Who's their
Louisiana.
baseball team? Nebraska.
Yeah.
Half of them are Denver Bronco fans.
Yeah.
Like, half of them are Green Bay Packer fans.
Yeah, it's just not even a conversation. But yes, the old Big 12, the old Southwest Conference is what it needs to go back to. And ultimately, if you had that old Southwest Conference, I don't think the SEC would be as relevant. I don't. Because you have...
I think it would go back to a time where I think the SEC would still be really, really good.
No doubt.
It would be like there would be three powerhouses back, but it ain't happening. We're going the wrong direction, so